India Company. After 1816, Bhimsen Thapa made a very good attempt to modernize the Nepalese army. Because Bhimsen Thapa could not forget the loss of those areas in the West. And he was very much, serious in taking revenge against the British. And that's why after 1816, army was modernized in a new state by Bhimsen. It is true that he could not take revenge against the British government, he could not take revenge, but still there. The modernization of army under Bhimsen Thapa was a big contribution of him in the development of the military activities. Yeah, and when we make an assessment of Bhimsen Thapa, I generally used to say that Bhimsen Thapa's career can be divided into three parts. The rise of Bhimsen Thapa was due to the conspiratorial politics. He staged every kind of politics, every kind of conspiracy to come into power. Now it is generally said by some of the writers that the assassination of Rana Madhava Shah itself was brought about by Bhimsen Thapa. It is generally said. It may not be correct, but it is definitely correct that Bhimsen Thapa came to power by conspiracy. So he seems to be a conspirator in order to come into power. But after 1816, he was a full nationalist because he wanted to take revenge against the company's government. And he modernized the army. And he did everything that would make Nepal stronger so as to fight with the East India Company. So he was a nationalist after 1816. And finally, after the death of Lalit Tirupur Sundari, the regent queen, who was under his control, now after his death, after the death of Lalit Tirupur Sundari, Bhimsen Thapa was powerless. And at last, he made a very tragic end, isn't it? So, the second phase of Bhimsen Thapa's career was that of a nationalist career. And his nationalist career was the outcome of the anti-Nepal war. If Nepal was not defeated in her war with the company's government, Bhimsen Thapa's modernization of the army would not have been possible. He modernized the army because of the humiliation he suffered, not he, but the country suffered in the hands of the company's government. So, that was the second important thing. Then the third important thing is that we have already discussed it yesterday also. During the unification time, a system of the autonomous state was exercised in the West. That means those small states which voluntarily surrendered before the Nepal government were given the autonomous status, and it made the unification work very easier, that is true. But it created big problems later on, and that problem was solved only after more than 100 years, during the time of the Then the fourth was that though Nepal was unified, though the unification of Nepal was the story of success, but its ending was a failure. It ended in the humiliating story. And more than that, it was also a failure of Nepalese foreign policy, because Nepal lost the war with both the neighbors. With Tibet and China, she lost the war because she could not get the help of East India Company. And with East India Company, she lost the war because she could not get the help of China. So this is the impact of the unification of Nepal. Now regarding the question, now this question we have already mentioned earlier also, whether it was the unification of Nepal or the expansion of border. I think this thing we have already discussed. And the main two questions raised here is that during the time of Prithviraj Shah, only the kingdoms of the Nepal Valley were called Nepal. None of the Baisi or Chobisi states never called themselves as Nepal. Similarly, the Siena kingdoms of the East also never claimed themselves as Nepal. Only the three kingdoms of Nepal Valley, that is Kandipur, Bhaktapur and Lalitpur, they claimed themselves as Nepal. So, how can the conquest of other areas should be called as the unification of Nepal? This is the first question raised. Then the second question raised is that Prithviraj Shah's main aim was to capture the kingdoms of the valley, and he never used the word unification in any of his letters or anywhere in Divya or anywhere. So how can we call it as the unification? These were two big questions raised, and in answer to these questions, we should say that though during the time of Prithviraj Shah, only the three states of the valley called themselves as Nepal, during the ancient period, Nepal was as big as the present day. There are many evidences of it. And it was only in the medieval period that the country was disintegrated into more than 50 states. So, once big state, which was disintegrated later on, and if it is again united, whether by force or anything, it is called unification. Now see, when we analyze the historical facts, we should see those facts from the eyes of those days, not from the present time. We should not say to Prithviraj Shah that, well, how can we say Prithviraj Shah is a great king because he did not bring democracy in Nepal? Can we say like that? So in Janga Bahadur also, how can we appreciate Janga Bahadur? Because Janga Bahadur did not hold any election. Can we say? Definitely no. Because those were the days, not of democracy and election, but of autocratic rule of the king. And the main thing is that the kings would be enlightened despot. The king should be all in all, but he should work for the people. That's the only thing. Leave aside the question of democracy and this election. Isn't it? So here also, we should look into the unification of Nepal from the eyes of those days, not from the present day. And analyzing the events from the eyes of the 18th century Nepal, the work done by Prithviraj Shah must be considered because it is said, well, when a country is to be united, it should be united by consensus, not by war, not by killing the people, not by plundering the property. Isn't it? But yes, that is the concept of present day, that is true, but not applicable in the 18th century. Now I have already mentioned in the very first lecture that the unification of Italy and Germany in 1870. The unification of Italy was also brought by wars and battles. German unification was also brought about by the wars, not by consensus. So, those were the events of 1870. Now the unification of Nepal was 100 years before than that event. Yes, that is true. When there was the second unification of Germany, There was a second unification of Germany between East and the West Germany in 1990. It was brought by consensus. It was not brought by war. Isn't it? Both the people of West and East Germany, they destroyed the Berlin Wall. Berlin Wall. So, under such a situation, we should consider the activities of Krishna and his successors as the unification of Nepal, not as the expansion of Gorkha. But we must say by the end that Prithvinarayan Shah's military campaign started as the expansion of Gorkha, but it ended as the unification. That is my comment. We cannot say that from the very beginning, Prithvinarayan Shah wanted the unification of Nepal. Just as some of the persons say, isn't it? In many articles, well, they used to say that from the very beginning, Prithvinarayan Shah wanted the unification of Nepal. He did not want the expansion of Gorkha. He was thinking of unifying the Nepalese territory. That is not true actually. At first, he wanted the expansion of Gorkha. Isn't it? His military campaign started as the expansion of Gorkha, but it ended as the unification. So this is the story of the unification of Nepal, and then tomorrow and day after tomorrow we discuss Prithvinarayan Shah as a strategist. And I was told by the organizers that on the last day I should give some brief notes, I should give some brief discussion on the Nepalese commanders and also the Nepalese battlefields. So I will do day after tomorrow. And tomorrow we discuss Prithvinarayan Shah. All right. Now, if there is any question, yes.
What do you think are some of the recent wars which are derived from other unification?
No. There are many lessons, you know. What are the lessons to be learned in this? Yes, many lessons should be learned. That we will discuss tomorrow regarding the weak points of Prithvinarayan Shah. Because you know, in course of military campaigns, several times Prithvinarayan Shah lost the war. Isn't it? Prithvinarayan Shah was defeated, or in other words to say, Prithvinarayan Shah failed to achieve the end many times. And from that, many lessons can be. You know, that lesson is the word.
So can you explain more detail regarding the Battle of Kangra?
No, but actually speaking, you know, regarding the Battle of Kangra, there is no good account of the Battle of Kangra. Now, what happened is that there was Satluj River. Across the Satluj River, there was Kangra ruler, Samsar Khan, who was assisted by Ranjit Singh.
Samsar or
Samsar Khan. Samsar Khan. S-A-M-S-A-R, Samsar. Then on the eastern side of the Satluj River, there were the Nepalese army. Isn't it? So, the Nepalese army and the army of Kangra faced one another very rarely. There was no big war. Neither Samsar Khan could wage a big war against the Nepalese army, nor could Nepalese army wage a big war against Samsar Khan. So they were, what we say in Nepali, amni-samni. Isn't it? Across the Satluj River and eastern side of Satluj River. So there is no big account of the war of this Kangra war, but even then, if you want to see the Kangra war in some details, you can see a book by Atkinson, and the name of the book is Kumaon Hills. There you will get a very detailed description of the wars of Kumaon, Galwan, and Kangra. So we still lack the detailed war affairs in Kangra. sufficient. We know it much that neither Samsat could defeat the Japanese army, nor Nepal could overthrow Samsat. That is the position. And that's why, you know, when Nepal was in that critical position, she had to fight a war, not with Samsat, but with the British.
So, during the unification campaign, President Shah really had time to perform the social and administrative reforms. In such context, how he maintained social harmony among the people he unified from the to the disabled.
Yes. Now, yes, you are correct to say that President Shah did not get any time because from 1742 to 1768, he was engaged in warfare. And without conquering the valley states, it was not possible for President Shah to make any socio-administrative or economic changes. But after the valley kingdoms were conquered in 1769, also the Japanese army was engaged in the eastern and western campaign. And in the eastern campaign, it was successful. It is short, that is true. But in the western campaign, it was a failure, first thing. And it took much time in the war between the Chobisi and President Shah. And that's why during President Shah's time, he could not contribute so much in the administrative, social or economic reforms. That is why during his last days, when he spent his last days in Nuwapur, he gave a grand lecture to his courtiers, and which is known as Divya Upadesh. And Divya Upadesh can be divided into two parts. You know. In the first part, Prithvinarayan Shah explained how he conquered the Nepal. What were the strategies he adopted to conquer Nepal? First part. Then the second part is that how the future rulers of Nepal should develop the country economically or socially or administratively or in foreign policy. That's why he said this state is a jam between the two stones. Keep friendship with China, keep friendship with the British also, but he is too clever. Isn't it? He has captured Hindustan. So that was his wise in his last lecture. Similarly, he said, don't allow the foreign businessmen to enter into Nepal, because if they enter, they will take your money and wealth to the foreign country. You should discourage the import and encourage the export. So in this way, he had mentioned several of his visions which he could not fulfill in his lifetime. And that those visions have been made clear. And practically, he could not contribute a lot in the socio-economic and administrative policies of Nepal. All right? So tomorrow we discuss the President Shah's study. And one thing you know, now tomorrow's lecture may be a little bit duplication, because while discussing the unification wars, we have also mentioned, isn't it, the strategies of President Shah in brief. But tomorrow and after tomorrow we will concentrate whole on the life and career of President Shah as a history. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. नजाने काम गर्ने हजुर हिजो हेर्छ न हिजो उसमा गएँ के अरे हजुरको स्टक